Hi, this is David from TIBCO. Today I'm going to give you an introduction into the fulfillment catalog of the fulfillment orchestration suite. First, I'm going to give you an overview about the main navigation tabs of the graphic UI so that you can find every piece of functionality. Next, I'm going to show you how you can create users and assign roles to them. Then I will show you how you can create or modify products or prices or plan fragments and how you can connect them so that you can create your own product model. Then I will give you an overview about the concept of project tags and how you can make use of it. Then I will show you the versioning features, so whenever you change a product or create a product, it will keep track of the changes in versions and how you can make use of it. After that, I will show you how you can import into the fulfillment catalog or export from the catalog so that you can actually move a catalog from one environment to the other for staging purposes, for example. And last, I will show you how you can publish the catalog into the runtime from the web UI. So before we log into the catalog, I'd like to remind you that the catalog is built on top of TIBCO's MDM solution. So therefore, I want to introduce some terms that are used across the platform, so you get a better understanding what I will talk about later on. A very important term is used for your data models, so for your data classes. In MDM, they are called repository. So examples are product or segment or a plan fragment. And all these repositories are interconnected with each other through relationships. Concrete instantiations of a repository are called record. Given an example, for example, we have our product repository and I want to create a product, like my mobile bundle. Each representation then is called a record. If we want to do an import into the catalog from external sources, like third-party catalogs or billing systems or CRM system, you can define these sources using a MDM resource that is called data source. So basically a data source represents, like, for example, a database table or a file, CSV file. In the data source, then you can specify which columns are in the CSV file, for example. The mapping of these data sources into your repository are managed through input maps. So basically, a input map defines the mapping of a column to a field within your repository, but it can also you can also define transformations within an input map. So for example, you can make fields uppercase or put in constants or database functions to add, for example, a date or something like that. Important to know is that input maps always belong to a specific repository. So there are input maps of the product repository, of the plan fragment repository, or the price repository, while data sources are managed independently. So basically, if you have, for example, a CSV file, a data source that contains both information of products or plan fragments, you can reuse that data source for input maps of your product repository, but also for input maps of your plan fragment repository. Those are the terms. And the last important term I want to introduce is the workflow. Workflows are the processes that are executed whenever you interact with the platform. So for example, if you create a product on the web UI, or you do a product publish, or you import products, in all these cases, a instantiation of a workflow is done. So that drives your specific task. These executed workflows, while they execute and also after they executed, they can be reviewed, and you can also analyze then inputs and outputs of the activities of the workflow. Those are basically the main terms that I wanted to introduce. So when I refer to them later in the video, hopefully you will have a better understanding of each term. So first we log into the catalog using the enterprise FC. It's not case sensitive, so you can use it both capital or small letters. Then we use admin as username and password admin to log in. Now I will go through these tabs and give you an understanding of the functionality by the menus that are provided in each tab. So here you can see that there are some menus under some tabs. So the first tab is your inbox. Here you typically see workflow items that are assigned to you. So whenever there's like a conflict between records, when you do a creation or an import of them, and they cannot be resolved automatically, work items are assigned to you. In the out-of-the-box fulfillment catalog, there are actually no workflow items created. So in our scenario, this complete tab can basically be ignored. The next one is the administration tab. Here you can edit profiles of your backends, of the company itself. You can modify or create users and assign roles to them. And you can define general permissions to resources. In the System Operations tab, you can export and import metadata such as repository definitions or data sources or input maps into the environment, or can also export it from the environment. In the Master Data tab, you'll find the definitions of repositories and also of your data sources, and within the repositories, for example, also input maps and output maps. So, for example, for the repositories, I'd just like to give you a small introduction. Here we'll actually find the repositories that form your SIP-based product model. So if we go into product, for example, we will see the attributes of the product, so the ID, the name of the product, and how these names are also handled in the database in all definitions of the fields. Very important are also relationships. Relationships are basically the relationships between repositories, but also within a repository. These relationships in most cases basically build the rules that later will do things like fulfillment or drive validation or determine the right price for you. If we go back, what I explained before already, each repository also has a set of input maps that basically define your mapping from data sources to your repository. So for example, if we go in this one and view it, we can see that there's a data source used that is called product data source. I can also quickly refer to it later on. But this is basically how the mapping is done then. Here, for each field of your repository, you have the possibility to define a mapping from your data source to the field, but also by typing in constant values or database functions. So if we go to data sources, we also get a quick impression of the data sources that are used. For example, the product data source we just saw in the product data input map. So this is basically the bread and butter of a typical MDM solution. In context of the fulfillment catalog, actually these data sources and repositories are built within the MDM solution. So you have a typical MDM solution, and the fulfillment catalog plugin then provides you already with those SID-based repositories, data sources, and input maps. The next tabs is the Browse and Search tab. Here you can basically then create your instantiations of repositories, so records. First you can search them or just simply browse through them. But I will show you later in detail how this can be done. The Fulfillment Catalog Operation tab basically provides you the functionality that comes with the catalog scope. So we have functionalities like exporting fulfillment data from our catalog or import data into the catalog. I will show that in a little bit more detail later on. We can do product publish into the FOSS runtime, but we can also import from the provisioning into the catalog. Last is the hierarchy management. I will show that also as part of the browse and search section later. The business processes tab you can basically ignore. Here you can assign processes to certain actions, but this is all pre-configured when you install the catalog already. The last one is quite important. I will go to that a little bit more in detail later on, but as context, basically whenever you do an action, workflows fulfill your actions, and each workflow creates an event, and these events are logged in here. So for example, if I add a record, the workflow actually does it for you, does certain actions, and within the log then you can see inputs and outputs of these actions, and you can see the overall success status, also success status of each activity. So now you should be able to find each of the main functionalities, and I will go for certain sections, I will go now into more detail. So first we start off with the setup of the catalog. Typically you want to create users and assign roles to them, as not everyone should have the same permissions. You can manage this obviously through an Active Directory, but for demo purposes I'll show you shortly how you can create users manually and assign roles to them. So first we go to administration and then to user accounts. And here you see a list of the users that have been created already. So for us, it's only the admin account. So if you want to create a new user, you just need to click on the create button and a user creation dialog shows up. Here you basically specify first the user details, such as the username, which he uses to log in, then his actual name and password. There are different security types as well. So LDAP, for example, as I mentioned. And then we assign roles to that user. There are a bunch of predefined roles in the context of the fulfillment catalog. Actually, the administrator and the data steward are the most important ones, or the only ones you're going to deal with primarily. The administrator role has almost all permissions and should be used for technical maintenance staff. So for doing the overall maintenance of the catalog. The data stewards can create or modify or delete records. So this role should be assigned to marketing people for creating the commercial aspects of the catalog, and to technical people to create the technical part of the catalog. Functions such as importing or exporting or catalog publish are disabled for them. So once you've assigned your roles, you can give them also some settings, like which language and format stuff, and then you can simply save and your users created. So now I'm going to show you how you can modify your product model by creating or updating products or prices or any other repository. So therefore we go to browse and search. This is basically the place where the magic happens. So we start off with the top left. Here you see the repository you can select. So if you want to attach a price to a product, for example, create a new one and then attach to a product, you would go to price. Or if you just want to create a new product, go to the product repository. Then on the left we see a filtering pane. This is basically based on component classes which are done for some repositories. So for products are already classified by their product type. So this basically helps you to do some quick filtering. So for example, if I just want to see BPO products, class BPO, then I just need to click here or here to see POs. The easiest way to get to products you want to modify is to just do view all. And then you can do filtering, or you just navigate through the product model. And as bigger your catalog gets, it's more likely is that you actually want to search products. So here is the search button. You can open this little search dialog where you can search based on various parameters. And for each parameter you have modifiers. So for example, like is very handy, or starts with or ends with. And then you can do a search. So If you actually want to do a modification of a product, there are two ways doing that. Either you just tick the product and click modify. Then you're already in the modification screen. Or you can also just view your model, just click on it, and then go to the modify button, which then allows you to do modifications. But in order to show you a little bit more detail of the screen, I want to create a product. So if I go back, just say create record. Here then you will see the info tab of the product. So here is basically basic information, and there are other tabs as well, which are based on the component class you select. So for example, if we want to create a BPO, then the details tab will show up and the internal tab. And then we can provide some sample information here. By BPO. BPO. Can leave the rest empty. And then we provide details here, such as when should the product be launched and when should it retire. And a very important tab is the internal tab. Here you basically provide plan fragments. So there are those 4 predefined actions. So if the product is provided to a customer, if he buys it in the store, what kind of implementation should happen for this product. Typically you have a structured model from commercial customer facing products down to technical components. So most likely the commercial products don't have plan fragments, so they are just customer facing, and then at runtime they get decomposed into their technical components, which then actually do the fulfillment of your commercial product. So for commercial ones, typically we use non-executing. This is some kind of keyword. You can actually change also, but by default it's called non-executing. So if you provide that plan fragment name, the orchestration suite will not do anything for this product. So it will just resolve dependencies, but if it's actually when it's actually supposed to be fulfilled, it will just skip that step. So for example, for these products we would put in non-executing, but obviously it's depending on your business needs. And we want to give our BPO also a cool price. So here we use the product price by relationship to attach a price to it. So here's the option to actually use an existing one, or you can just create a new one. This is what I'm doing now, so I call it OT for one-time prices, and there's the product. Starting getting lazy already, so I'm just copying it as a name, and I'm using class one time. For prices there are 5 types supported. One time is like a price you just pay once. Recurring is a fee that is charged on a monthly basis or yearly basis, so you can configure the charge rate. Usage-based prices are typically prices that are based on a certain usage, like per SMS or per minute of voice or data or things like that. Composite prices are containers, so if you want to have complex prices with um, recurring rates for the first month at a lower charge and for the remaining months at a higher charge, you would typically bundle this in composite prices. And migration fees. Migration fees is a kind of a specialty, so when you do a product migration from one product to the other, migration fees help you to define fees for them, like a fixed fee or also the difference if you move into a cheaper tariff, for example. So we just choose one time. And maybe to also show you a little bit of the features and how the web UI guides you through the dialogues. I chose one time, so here you will see 4 attributes, so basically the ones that are relevant for one time. But if I go to recurring, for example, you will see more attributes, because recurring typically have more attributes, like how often is the charge applied or charged. But I chose a quite simple one. So it has an activation fee. Here you can select the currency, so I will choose euro. And the other ones are quite special, I can leave them empty. Internal record status is always testing when you create one, and then once you're done, it will become active. And that's basically it. For some relationships, you also have relationship attributes which you can modify. For product priced by, there is none, so when you attach it, that's the way it's attached. Just to show you quickly how it looks like when you have relationship attributes, I just add a product comprised of relationship. So this is the way later your commercial product will get decomposed into technical components, and it's basically done through that relationship. So if we click now to the relationship, there is this relationship attributes tab again. And here then, for example, you have attributes like record min 0, record max 1, the sequence, and it should be auto provisioned. Okay, so if we save and process now, you should be able to see my BPO. So let's go back in here, and here you already see that it's version 2 because of the creation and the creation of relationships. It will already create multiple versions. But I will show you later how you can actually deal with these versions. Before that, I want to show you how you can use project tags though. So now I showed you how you can create or connect repositories or records with each other through the dialogues. but there's also a graphical view of them. So this one, just show you again. So you basically tick your product and then you go to hierarchy management. And here you will have the product you just ticked and all kinds of relationships he has. So for example, product comprised of, as I showed you before, I added the email box to it. What I could do now is also adding some other service to it, like the mobile line, for example. And here automatically the dialog for the relationship attributes pops up, so we provide one-in-one sequence, oops, and say it's auto-provisioned, then we apply it. So here you can just modify the product in a different way, which for some people is more convenient. I personally prefer the other way, but it doesn't matter. So here we could also, for example, add a usage price. And then we're done. Different way to get to that view is if we go to fulfillment catalog operation and to hierarchy management. Then you're basically just in a plain view. You first select your repository. For example, if you want to do the same thing again, we go to product, then check out the BPOs, drag it in there, and then we select the relationship we want to modify. So now I show you how you can make use of project tags. So therefore we first create a project tag. So as you can see, I have not created any yet, so I create a new one. My release, for example. My release. So project tags are basically a way to create versions of your product. So a product can have multiple project tags assigned to it. But this is the way how you can group certain products together and create a tag for them. So first you add it here. My release, so you can create multiple ones. And then you simply go to a product or price, so all of them can be tagged. Just go to POs. And then we attach the project tag. So this is done here. So you simply click on that button and then this little dialog shows up. Here you select the project tag, so the one we just created will show up here. So as more you create, as longer this drop down list will become. You just select it and add it here. As you can see, you can also add a new one and add as many as you like. And then your product is tagged. These tags then can be used to export your catalog in a later stage and import them into, for example, the next staging environment. So you can create very specific small tagged releases of your product model and just export them and import them into the next higher staging environment where you can test it then. Okay, so now we tagged it. And I just go inside again. You can see it's now version 4 already. And this is what I'm going to show you now, the versioning feature. So all entities or all records within the catalog are automatically versioned. It also comes automatically by the nature of being a MDM solution, so just makes use of that. So if we tick my BPO, for example, and we do show history, we will see the actions here, so the events. When I added the product, it created already 2 versions, so it will keep track of some changes internally also in 2 versions. Same goes here. And if you, for example, go into that version, you can also see the concrete representation at the time. For example, if we go here to this particular version, we can also restore to that version. So now version 3 is considered our latest version. So what it will do actually, it will go back to version 3 and create a new version 5 out of it. So it will actually branch your version. So by doing that, you can also go back at any point and go back to an older version. And you still have the history of your previous branches. Go to the event log. You will see that it will do it as a modification. Okay, that's it for versioning. So now I'm gonna show you how you can export data from the catalog and also how you can import them then afterwards. So first we're gonna do a export. So you go to fulfillment catalog operation, into menu export fulfillment data. Then you select the full or partial enterprise data export. So basically, if you don't specify any project tag names, it will export everything from the catalog. If you specify though a specific project tag, for example, our first release, click plus, then it will only export those entities that are tagged with the first release. So we're gonna do that now. Click to export. It will initiate a workflow that does the export for us. And now we go to the event details of that workflow, and we can actually download also the export we've done. Therefore, we first click show more details, and then you go to additional data and you get your export file. What was this one? So you download your partial export. Can now also extract it. And we see that there was just one product tagged. And also we have the according tag here. So it will just export data that is related to a certain tag. And in the next step, we're gonna do an import of the same data again. So obviously it will not change anything, but just to show you how you can do this. So we downloaded it here. It's our partial catalog data. Select it and we do upload. And again, another workflow is started. And because it's just one product, obviously goes very quick. So it's imported. Finally, I will show you how you can do a catalog publish into the runtime. So first we go again to fulfillment catalog operation and then to publish catalog. Then you will see the bulk model publish dialog. Here we will see all the repositories that we can publish. So basically whatever you select will be published. So we just want to export products and plan fragments. And now we come to specialty. Because of the MDM background, workflows always have to be initiated using a existing product ID, so therefore we need to provide a product ID. Product. And for products we have another specialty which is called catalog use. So this is basically the aspect we want to export. So do we only want to export technical products or only commercial products or all products? So we select all. And for plan fragment we also provide a valid product ID of a plan fragment. And then we just press publish. So we go to the event details of the product publish process. And as context. Here the actual repository is selected. So actually one workflow does all the publishes. So, and if we go to that dialog I just showed you, if we click multiple repositories, one instance for each repository is initiated, and in this activity the correct repository will be selected and then exported. Our export is configured as a file-based export, so we would actually need to download the file, product offline, and save it. Same goes for the plan fragment export. So just to give you the understanding I was talking about, here the plan fragment will be selected. It's the same process but called in a different context. Here we can also download the jar file. And then we can use these two files to do a product publish into the environment. Therefore, we need to navigate to the correct input directories of both OMS and OCS and just copy those files there and extract the contents.